it is great to welcome Chuck Pierce with us, and he heads up the two ministries that you head up, Chuck.
Glory of Zion International, and of course out of that we have Glory of Zion Outreach, the church that we have there, which is a wonderful, wild, fun, prophetic church, and
Wonderful.
then we have a connection of about several thousand house churches.
Okay.
Around, and then of course then we have an apostolic ministry, is Glory of Zion International, and then we have Global Spheres. Peter Wagner and I have worked together for years, but now we've developed a new ministry for his transition. He's 80 years old, and so this ministry of leaders internationally that really have their vision. And my issue is, let's relate and realign so as we move forward into the next season, we know who we are in various nations, which that brings me to you, Trevor. It's so good to be here with you.
Yeah, and we'll probably come back to the realignment a little later, but we've had Chuck Pierce here and also Paul Keith Davis, and they've been speaking at our Secret Place conference, which we've talked about realignment with heaven. And so let me ask you, Chuck, what you've sensed as you've come into the UK this time. I know you've been in a number of times, but is there anything that you're seeing is different this time, and particularly with what you've stepped into in terms of what is taking place in Dudley and in the ministry here?
Well, it's been a little different this time for me, because a lot of times I'll fly through from another nation. We'll have a meeting in London. And this time, by being in two distinct outlying cities and being with church structures, makes it a little different. But when I got here, Trevor, I really I could sense where God had a structure, a church. Churches are gathering place.
Yeah.
And you gather for fellowship, you gather for strategy. And so here, God had a church that now he wants to take and bring into a whole new way of expression of gathering. And not only do I sense that here, I sense that the ministry here, which is very similar to the way that we operate, the ministry here is now realigning so that the move of God can go all across the UK. But I didn't even see just the UK.
Yeah.
I actually saw you going into the nations the Great Britain has always been connected with in the past.
Yeah.
You'll end up in India, you'll end up in all these other nations, because there's a redemptive plan going on that is very important. So by being here in the conference, I believe I see a great hope, a very good remnant, a very strong presence of God here.
Yes.
So that in days ahead, when you're entering a new season, you feel like you've stepped into a place that can take people into the new season.
Now, you mentioned about the new season, but there's one key thing that you were talking last night about, and that was going beyond. And just talk to us about the going beyond. Chuck.
Last night I was using Isaiah 55, where it says, your ways are not my ways, your thoughts are not my thoughts. What happens to us is we'll hear God very clearly in one season. We'll begin to administrate what God tells us in that season. But then there comes a moment where the season shifts. Now, we're in a shifting season. In other words, you're not moving toward a new season. A new season is upon us. And I always look from a Hebraic standpoint and try to tell time. I've written a couple of books on time. So we're actually in a new season. Now, the thing about that is, what you want to do is look at the best of the last season, what God said, but you've got to extend it and take it beyond so his word doesn't return void. Amen. In other words, I might have said this here. You might have processed it in this season this way, but now I'm about to take this on in, and you're going to go beyond where you've ever gone. You're going to see beyond into a realm. You're going to move spiritually beyond. You might have experienced renewal in this season, but now the river of God is going to rise, and you're going to move into a whole new dimension.
Yeah, and then also you you were just looking at too this, and you used a phrase again, which I feel is so important for people to get hold of, where you say the mantle doesn't change, but at times the model does.
Absolutely.
And you
See,
brought about the Elijah, Elisha.
see, not only did Elisha receive the mantle, but as you see, all of a sudden, a whole new model is created. Take Noah also, as in the days of Noah. We
Yes.
read that over in the New Testament. You go back to Noah, well, God was tired, had gotten weary, it says, of striving with the atmosphere of earth. So he said, I'm going to bring down a new blueprint. I'm going to bring down a new model.
Yeah.
Noah, here it is. No one knew about rain. No one knew about a boat.
Yes.
Here's the model for the future. You start building it. And then he gave everyone 120 years to make a choice over it. And no one made a choice to get in that new model. So sometimes not only do you have the mantle that has been shifted from one generation to the next or one ministry to the next, but you have a whole new model that in a new season God could raise you up to create something that really hasn't been seen that is important for the future of his kingdom plan in this whole area.